Commissioner Fritz raised a great question last week, and I don't think it was very well stated in the ordinance, and I want to clarify this. The number of people is technically only 100 people can show up for a demonstration. Number one, it would be stricken down as unreasonable on its face if it was a large public space. But we already have restrictions on the number of people. If you file for a permit and you want to be in a park block and you say, I want 10,000 people in a park block, we're going to tell you no. We're going to suggest a different location, maybe Waterfront Park, where more people could congregate safely and also not damage the facilities that we have. This ordinance only impacted those who choose not to apply for a permit. I want to be very clear. It would have put non-permitted demonstrations on the same footing with permitted demonstrations under very limited circumstances where we knew 2 or more groups with either a history of violence or stated intent of violence were coming together. So where does this leave us? This was an approach the chief and I thought could help address what we saw as a potentially escalating situation in our community. We put it out there. It has not carried the day. We are still interested in doing something more than the status quo, because the status quo is clearly not working for our community. While we are very concerned about the rights of protesters and counter-protesters, we are also concerned about the rights of everybody else who works and lives in this community and who are increasingly troubled by what they are seeing unfold on the streets of this community. I heard a lot of people at the microphone say last week, we have different approaches, we have new approaches. I hope they mean something other than a 2-year-long conversation about the general state of policing. We have plenty of tables already focused on police reform. We already have our directives on crowd control that have been out there to the public. We already have a lot of conversations going about best practice 21st century policing, community policing, the use of technology like body cams around policing. Those conversations are ongoing. But if we have more to say on this immediate issue, this urgent issue, that is unfolding on our streets today, I'll continue to work with anybody who has a good idea. Last but not least, I read in my Willamette Week this morning, Bob and Singh said something, and I have to call it out, because I believe he mischaracterized the meeting that my staff and I had with him. He did offer 3 good ideas. 3 good ideas around policing. His first idea was that we educate public employees, we educate the community, and we educate the media about the alt-right in our community. I'm all for education. The second thing, I told him I'm not supportive of it. It was a whole slew of ideas and discussions and conversations that are already taking place at other tables. I don't want to create more tables. I wanted to engage him and his group at the tables that already exist. The PSEP, other, CRC, other areas where we already have that opportunity. The third thing he suggested was that we go to Georgetown, we go to Mary McCord, the woman who endorsed my ordinance, and work with her and her colleagues to see if there's another strategy to keep militia-type organizations out of our community. And Commissioner Fish was compelled by that, and he added it as an amendment to this ordinance, which I appreciated. I think we should continue to take a good hard look at that strategy as well. So that was a little longer than I wanted to be. I apologize. I just wanted you to know that this is very important. I'm sorry, there's one more thing, and I promise I'll stop. Commissioner Fish said something that resonated with me, and that is telling Joey Gibson and the Proud Boys and others to stay home. I want to remind you all, I tried that strategy, and I honestly learned from that experience, because I heard from many people, including many people in this room right now, that that was unconstitutional.
That's right.
I asked the federal Homeland Security canceled the parks permit for the Proud Boys in the days following the Max murders. And I wasn't saying stay out of Portland forever. I was just saying don't come this week when our community is angry and it's grieving and we have limited police to deal with what could be a potentially very, very ugly public safety situation. I thought it was a very reasonable approach to take, but I think something like 150 editorial boards around the country described me as an enemy of the First Amendment. The ACLU was profoundly upset with me. Others in this community, in this room, felt that I really stepped into it and overstepped my bounds as mayor by asking them not to come. Because after all, the First Amendment protects all speech, even reprehensible speech. So this ordinance was something else, a new direction. I obviously vote aye, I support it, but I will continue to work with you and the chief and anybody else who has good ideas. As a community, we've got to come together and solve this problem. I vote aye that the ordinance fails.
Throw it in the garbage. Garbage in, garbage out.
Next item.
All right.
74, please.
The walk of shame.
Sarah Stevenson, Molly Rogers, and Leanna Tripp Folsom to the Portland Housing Advisory Committee for terms to expire November 30, 2021.